Andres from AA Sports back with another NFL video. It is Wednesday night as of the filming of this video in beautiful downtown San Jose. That means week 3 of the NFL season starts tomorrow with Thursday night football. With that, in this video, I will be making my week 3 predictions for every game. But before we begin, I do want to say, if you guys like this sports content, leave a like on the video and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you find yourself coming back to see more of my videos. It will be a big help in supporting this passion project. Now, going on into the predictions, starting off with Thursday Night Football, we got the New England Patriots taking on the New York Jets. This will be a key game between two AFC East teams. The Patriots so far, while they are nowhere near what they once were, they have had a pretty competitive start to the season. They ended up winning against the Bengals, and while they ended up losing, they took the Seahawks into overtime. Their defense had been playing well. Stevenson has been in good form, so now we are looking to see what happens and how their defense does now that they are playing against a Jets team without Zach Wilson. As for the Jets, they are happy Aaron Rodgers is healthy this time. But that has been the only really positive thing. During the first 2 weeks, they've underwhelmed massively. They got thrashed against the 49ers on Monday Night Football in week 1. And they were in a battle with the Titans last week. That was a game that was much more stressful than it should have been, given how Will Levis was finding crazy ways to turn the ball over in that game. I do think that this will be an uglier game that is on the low scoring end. Both teams have good defenses so far, but their offenses still look very, very shaky. However, I do think the Jets will pull off a win just because their offense, while not in the best form, I do think is a little bit better than New England's. And if you're the Jets, this is a must-win game because this is a hot seat year. The organization is tired of losing seasons, going 7-10 the last 2 years and being worse before that. And they've pretty much put all the poker chips in, from drafting Zach Wilson as second overall, which ended up backfiring, to signing a massive and expensive 3-year deal with Rodgers in desperate hopes of finding a quarterback. And at this point, the frustrations are high. Hassan Reddick is still holding out. Garrett Wilson, who is trying to keep his hopes of being Offensive Player of the Year at some point somewhat alive right now, last season stated how frustrated he was with the team's offensive struggles. And despite Reddick's holdout, there is still talent defensively and a fear of wasting it for the Jets if they don't improve this year. This is a must-win game for the Jets in a hot seat year, because if they don't meet expectations with how much money, how much the front office has invested to try and build this team up to make the playoffs, everyone is going to get fired. The entire coaching staff, GM, they will be gone if they don't have at least a winning record at the end of the year. Moving on to the next game. You got the New York Giants taking on the Cleveland Browns. It's a battle between two crap quarterbacks and two offenses that seem to be allergic to scoring points. Last week, the Giants were able to actually score touchdowns, but their kicker got hurt, which resulted in them losing that game because they couldn't make kicks against the Commanders, who only scored field goals in that game. So that's how bad the Giants' offense has been. As for the Browns, they got a win in Jacksonville. They were convincing in the first half, but made it stressful in the second half. The Browns' defense has been great, but their offense has been underperforming. They did get a win last week and will look to build off that this week against a pathetic Daniel Jones and Giants team. I do think this will be a better game for the Browns. As for the Giants, I can't. I'm sorry. I simply cannot pick them this week, given they are 0-2, and with Daniel Jones and without Saquon Barkley, they are competing for last place in the NFL with the Panthers, in my eyes. I got the Browns winning this one. Next up is the Green Bay Packers against the Tennessee Titans. The Packers are without Jordan Love, who got injured in their opening game in Brazil. However, with Malik Willis as their backup quarterback, they were able to pull off a Week 2 win, even with players throwing up on the field and all over the football. They had a good run game, and the defense forced turnovers. In fact, the defense forced 3 turnovers last week. Meanwhile, the Titans, 0-2, they could have been 2-0, but Will Levis has not had a good start to the season at all. Levis has been a turnover machine early in the season, and with the Packers forcing 3 of them last week, oh lordy, how many turnovers will the Packers force in this game? I do have the Packers winning this game. They are in better form on both ends of the ball, and if they can force turnovers, this game could get ugly for the Titans. Now, you got the Chicago Bears taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Neither team had a good Week 2. For the Bears, their defense is phenomenal, holding CJ Stroud to only 19 points. Their offensive line, however, could not block a thing, and Caleb Williams got sacked like 5 times. Caleb Williams in Week 1 didn't throw for a touchdown, and in Week 2 against the Texans, he threw 2 picks. However, you can grade him on a curve for Week 2 due to the O-line struggles. But in terms of knowing if Williams is the guy for the Bears, we're going to find out this week for sure. As for the Colts, Anthony Richardson had a tough game last week. Not his best form, but he is a young quarterback. However, they have a good run game with Jonathan Taylor. I don't know why they stopped running the ball against the Packers. We'll see if they learned from that poor decision, as I do think the Colts' run game with Taylor can be an X factor, as both offenses struggle in all the other aspects. I think this game will be close and low scoring due to the Bears' strong defense. However, I have the Colts winning this game. Moving on, you have the Texans against the Minnesota Vikings. The Texans grinded out 2 wins against the Bears and Colts. We know they will be a good team that we will likely see in the playoffs as their division winner. CJ Stroud is a great quarterback for them, and DeMeco Ryans has been an excellent coach for this team, building up a strong defensive end as well. On the other side, the Vikings just pulled off an upset win at home against my 49ers, unfortunately. This surprised a lot of people. Remember, they are off to a good start without Addison and TJ Hawkinson, and Jefferson had to step out for a chunk of last week's game as well. The defensive line sacked Brock Purdy 6 times last week, and Sam Darnold, who has flipped around between teams over the years, looks to have found a solid place as the Vikings starting quarterback. And not going to lie, Darnold has been in good form so far. It is worth noting that the 49ers linebackers still kept Minnesota at bay and the game competitive when it should not have been. That does lead to the question, are the Vikings this good, or is it because the 49ers just had an off day amid the trend of not being able to win in Minnesota? Are the Vikings contenders, or are they pretenders that will fall in the long run? I do think we will find out within the next 2 games. I think this will be a good game, an interesting game to watch. I do have the Texans winning. I do think they are still the better team and have the stronger defense and a better quarterback offensively. Now, moving on to the Saints versus the Eagles. New Orleans Saints, Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are currently 1-1, beating the Packers in Brazil, but in Week 2 had a colossal failure against the Falcons. They will look to put that behind them in this game and prove that they are still a top team in the NFC East that will be playoff bound. And for the Saints, whoa. The Saints are off to nothing short of an amazing start to the season. They absolutely trashed both the Panthers and Cowboys. And the Cowboys, they trashed them in Jerry's world, by the way. Derek Carr has been in solid form. Alvin Kamara had 3 touchdowns last week. In just the first 2 games, The Saints offense has dropped a combined total of over 85 points on their opponents. I think the total is like, 92? That's insane. However, it is worth noting that week 1 was against the Panthers, who have already benched Bryce Young after just 2 weeks, who are easily the worst team in the NFL right now, with a team owner who is not managing the team well at all, going through head coaches like we go through socks in our drawers. And then they played the Cowboys in week 2, who are known to be fraudulent in the big spotlights, and a team we know won't make it past the wild card round, assuming they even make the playoffs. This does make you ask, are the Saints actually this good this year? Or was it that the Panthers are just that bad and the Cowboys are just that fraudulent? We're about to find out in this game. Right now, I do like the Saints in this game. The Eagles will have a strong run game with Saquon Barkley. However, the Eagles are also unsure if their key receiver in A.J. Brown will play due to an injury. I think the Saints will win. The question will be just how convincing will this win be? Now, the LA Chargers against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got Jim Harbaugh returning to the NFL with the Chargers. Mike Tomlin still prominent with the Steelers. Both teams got big wins last week and are both 2-0. And both love running the ball. The Chargers especially like to run the ball and have a very physical style of play. Their defense has been lights out, only allowing 2 plays in the red zone over the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, it was against the Raiders and Panthers, so this will be a bigger test defensively for the Chargers. As for the Steelers, their offense is not the focal point of this team. TJ Watt and that defense are the main talk in regards to the Steelers. Even with Justin Fields playing better and the defense, I do think once again will be the talking point, I imagine. I do think this will be a low-scoring, very gritty and physical game. I have been split on who I would pick. I'll say the Chargers, but I could very well be wrong come Sunday. Now, Broncos and Buccaneers. The Broncos fans are probably avoiding talking about Bo Nix right now. Bo Nix has thrown 2 interceptions in each of the last 2 games. 4 total. They are off to an 0-2 start, and right now not even Sean Payton has been able to save Bo Nix and this team, despite how good of a coach he is. There's just no offense, and if Nix doesn't improve, he could face the same fate as Bryce Young real soon. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield is baking and on a roll right now. His team is 2-0 with wins against the Lions and Commanders. Mayfield has thrown for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns so far. Mike Evans once again is their number 1 wide receiver. And Chris Godwin had 7 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown last week. I think the Buccaneers are the better team, and I do have them winning in convincing fashion. Next, you have... I don't want to talk about either team really, but you have the Carolina Panthers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders. You have the worst team in the NFL right now taking on the Davis family's money grab team. The Panthers at this point have the vibes of the 2008 Lions and 2017 Browns. They look destined to become the first 0-17 team and the worst team we have seen in NFL history. In a surprising and very controversial move, the Panthers have already benched Bryce Young after just 2 weeks this season, only to bring in Andy Dalton, who I don't think will change anything for the Panthers. The Panthers traded away all these draft picks plus DJ Moore to get Bryce Young, only to bench him after just 16 to 18 games as their young rookie starter. The Panthers are easily the worst team in the NFL right now, with no positive prospects, with a team owner who turns and burns, just goes through head coaches like we go through socks in our drawers. And after these two losses, Dave Canales might end up being the next coach on the list of head coaches the Panthers have fired. It wouldn't surprise me. I feel bad for Panthers fans. They must feel just so dead inside right now watching this team, and they don't deserve this at all. They deserve better. On the other side, you have the money grab that is the Raiders, a team that Mark Davis moved to Vegas only to fill the stadium, bank on ticket sales from tours to go to see the city of Vegas, with no plans to actually develop the team into a successful playoff franchise. Surprisingly, they got a win against the Ravens. Max Crosby and the defense are looking good so far. However, that offense, which has been abysmal ever since moving to Vegas, still has lots of questions. And I doubt that will change regardless of the result given their opponent this week. Fortunately for the Raiders, they have a Partido Molero this week against the worst NFL team this year, and I do think they will win, which I love and hate in this scenario. It's good for Raiders fans, even though it is a Partido Molero, they will see their team win, but it's also bad because it will be just another money grab game in Vegas that does just enough to give fans hope to still go to the games, only for Mark Davis to not improve the team and just take the Vegas tourist money. Essentially, the John Fisher of the NFL, only caring about making money rather than the true passion for the sport. Next is the Miami Dolphins against the Seattle Seahawks. Miami did not have a good week 2, losing to the Bills, and Tua once again injured and out for the foreseeable future with another concussion. This is like his third or fourth now, which is really, really concerning. Tagovailoa is becoming a very injury-prone, a very concussion-prone quarterback. I hope he can recover quickly and safely, but right now things are not looking good. They're looking very rough with injuries for the Dolphins, with Raheem Mostert also questionable for this weekend's game. As for the Seahawks, they are off to a good start to the season, 2-0. However, their game against the Patriots was much more stressful than the Seahawks fans wanted it to be. Their run game was nearly non-existent without Kenneth Walker, so they are definitely missing him. However, they still do have DK Metcalf, and Geno Smith is healthy as well. I do think the Seahawks will win this game. I don't think the Dolphins are good enough due to the injuries on their roster. Moving on to the next game, Dallas Cowboys and Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have lost both their games in very close fashion, with the one against the Chiefs literally losing by a toe. However, I don't think it's time to panic just yet for them, as I do think the Ravens are still competitive, and we saw that against the Chiefs. On the other hand, I'll say this right now, the Cowboys are a freaking joke. The only reason it doesn't piss me off seeing how fraudulent the Cowboys are, this coming from a 49er fan, is because the fan base is so arrogant and delusional. They kill the Browns, who have no offense, and say this is their year, like always. They then get trashed by the Saints at home. Prescott had 2 picks, and the defense fell apart. All in only to sign Dak, who is known to choke in the big stages. Yeah, way to go all in, Jerry Jones. And once again, they will face a real football team in the Ravens. And I just don't trust the Cowboys in these games. I got the Ravens winning here. I just don't trust the Cowboys. We have seen countless times again and again. The brighter the lights, the bigger the stage, the greater Dak Prescott's collapses, and just the bigger the choke job for the Cowboys. I'm sorry, the Cowboys are fraudulent, and frankly, the only reason it doesn't piss me off from a neutral perspective, not even including me as a fan, is because the front office, starting with Jerry Jones and then trickling down to the fan base, is very, very arrogant. So, again, I have the Ravens winning here. I think they are the better team, and they're not frauds. They can actually make their conference championship. Next up, we have, of course, my favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers against the Los Angeles Rams. Both these teams are facing adversity with injuries. For the Rams, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are injured, and their defense has not been the same since Aaron Donald retired at the end of last season. They are 0-2 and just trying to stay healthy at this point, which I worry will be difficult for the Rams given they are playing against a team that likes to play very physical football. The 49ers won't have Deebo Samuel or CMC due to injury. They also lost to the Vikings last week, and the whiner portion of the fan base is already saying the season is over and to even fire Shanahan. However, I will pump the brakes on that and say it is very early in the season for the 49ers, and they still have a strong roster. Jordan Mason has been great in the run game while filling in for McCaffrey. Juwan Jennings is still there. Ayuk looking to get his mojo back after his holdout during preseason, which has led to him being a little out of form during these first 2 weeks. Look to see him try to improve. And if there's any game where we will see improvement from Brandon Ayuk, it is this game. Defensively, the linebackers have been elite for the 49ers, with Fred Warner probably a front-runner for Defensive Player of the Year so far. Nick Bosa had Nick Bosa had 2 sacks last week. I pronounced it right. Nick Bosa had 2 sacks last week. And while Purdy did have 2 turnovers, he still threw for 319 yards and a touchdown. And we are still saying he had a bad game because of the 2 turnovers. So what does a good game look like if 319 yards thrown is bad? I, of course, will be picking my team to win, the 49ers. I think the 49ers are the better team, and they are healthier right now than the Rams. Moving on, Lions versus Cardinals. Both teams off to 1-1 starts. The Cardinals' offense looks to be improving, and Kyler Murray had a great game last week. They were even competitive against the Bills, even though they lost. However, I am going to pick the Lions to win this game. I do believe the Lions will win the battle in the trenches. I think their offensive and defensive lines are stronger than the Cardinals, and that can be an X factor in this game. If they can shut down the run game and keep Murray from scrambling, it will be a long game for the Cardinals. Now, Chiefs and Falcons. Both teams coming off wins in week 2. However, the Chiefs did lose Isaiah Pacheco, and he will be out for this game. So in terms of who will replace him in the backfield, we will find out how they do. Meanwhile, the Falcons capitalized on the Eagles' failures and got their first win last week. Will this help them build momentum for the Falcons? I think it's very possible. I just don't think it will be enough to win this game against the Chiefs. Frankly, the NFL is the true football. NFL is the football, or at least because we're in the U.S., soccer in the U.S. as they call it. The NFL is the football equivalent of a farmers league at this point, frankly. The Chiefs are miles ahead of the Falcons. And the only teams with the talent to beat the Chiefs in my eyes are the Ravens, the Bengals, the 49ers, and maybe the Lions. The other teams are damn near out of the picture for the Chiefs. And the only way they lose this is if they get too complacent and sleepwalk through the game. I have the Chiefs winning this one. Moving on to The two Monday night games, the two last games in my prediction. First, you get the Buffalo Bills taking on the Jacksonville Trevors. Sorry, guys, I had to pull the joke given the renaming of the stadium. They like Trevor Banks Stadium. I think they renamed it in honor of Trevor Lawrence, their starting quarterback. So yeah, they are the Jacksonville Trevors, and I just had to pull the joke. That definitely backfired though last week, as the Jaguars lost and Trevor Lawrence definitely did not have his best game, as the team is now 0-2. Offensively, they have not been able to close out games, and it was why they lost in week 2 to the Browns. The Bills had a great performance last week. Josh Allen looked elite out there. Cook was cooking in the running back position early on. They look like a solid team. Unfortunately, I do think the Jaguars do go to 0-3 here. I think the Bills are the stronger team, and they look more in form when this was a year that was predicted for the Bills to be a rebuilding year. Instead, they look in form, and they look like they will once again be playoff contenders. So I do have the Bills winning this game. Now on to the final game on our predictions list. We got the Washington Commanders versus the Cincinnati Bengals. What is this? Like, what are the Washington Commanders doing sitting in first place in the NFC East? What is this BS? Yeah. I mean, it's great for Commanders fans. Finally, some sort of optimism, something positive for this team amid just years of poor management and just the dark era of Dan Snyder, which they're trying to just recover from. So it's nice to see that. However, I'm sorry, I just don't think they are good enough to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Even though the Bengals did get off to an 0-2 start, I think they have the better quarterback. They have the better stars and players like Chase Young. I have the Bengals winning and getting their first win of the season. Sorry, Commanders. That's just where you guys are at right now. Hopefully you guys do improve, though. It's nice to see you guys look relatively competitive at the start, but I just do think the Bengals will win this one. With that is it. That concludes my predictions video for week 3 of the NFL season. Guys, feel free to put your opinions in the comments below. Who are your picks for this week? I would love to see it, and I would love to see what you guys think as viewers. Of course, feel free to like and subscribe to help grow this passion project. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and we'll see how my predictions play out. Thank you, and have a good night.